With all the different reports and rumors and possible leaks we've been getting about a Nintendo Switch 2 recently, there's been a lot of conversation as to what exactly the system is going to be and what kind of features it may have or not have. Will it be backwards compatible? Will it have 4K visuals? Will it still be a Nintendo Switch? Well, that's what we're talking about today.
Listen!
Welcome everyone, this is Andre's Restart, and today we are talking about possible features of the Nintendo Switch 2. Now we call this the Nintendo Switch 2 because we don't know what it actually is going to be or what it's actually going to be named, but I will tell you straight up, I think it's probably going to be pretty much a sequel to the Nintendo Switch, and there's a few different reasons why. So firstly, the Nintendo Switch currently is in a position to become maybe the best-selling system of all time. And when you consider that, when you consider not only from a hardware perspective, but also from a software perspective, we're seeing some of the highest attach rates. Almost every Nintendo franchise has seen record highs on this system. Sales are just incredibly strong across the board here. So it's very logical for Nintendo to follow this up. And if we look at things historically, that's what they've always done. When they've had a very successful system, they follow it up with a direct sequel, something that's using the same idea and technology. Nintendo Entertainment System, Super Nintendo Entertainment System, Wii, Wii U, DS, 3DS. All of these follow-up systems made sure to have the same features from the previous system. Now, not all those follow-up systems were extremely successful, but that's another conversation for another time. Today we're simply talking about what we are expecting for the features of the next system. So the next system, the Nintendo Switch 2, is likely going to be another hybrid device, and we do have some additional evidence to this. There was actually a leak from Nvidia suggesting that they have come up with a new mobile form of technology that would be a more powerful Switch. So we pretty much already have a good understanding of the kind of tech that will be actually used for the next system, and it's going to be another hybrid device just like the Switch, except it's going to be significantly more powerful. It's hard to gauge just how powerful it is, but I've seen a lot of people kind of put it around the range of maybe a little under a PS4 Pro, but considering it's a mobile technology and that there may be some good upscaling techniques and things of that nature, that's going to be pretty good for a handheld device. Again, I don't know how powerful it will actually be, but it is definitely going to be a step up from the Switch, and the main point here is that it's going to be another Switch. And actually, with the most recent leak that we've talked about in previous videos already, so I'm not going to focus too much on why we believe that leak. If you want more information on that, you could check out the previous videos. But the leak has talked about how this would be a part of the family of Nintendo Switch systems. It would be another Switch, of course, it would be a next generation version, something that's going to have both the handheld mode and the docked mode. But while we may be seeing a more powerful version of the Switch coming, will we still be able to play the same kind of games? Recently, there's been a lot of conversation that backwards compatibility would be very challenging. With a more powerful chipset moving on from the Tegra X1, it's not very easy to just have games run naturally on the next system without some work being done. Well, there's actually a decent amount of information out there suggesting that we will be seeing some level of backwards compatibility on the next system. So firstly, during different Nintendo briefings, Nintendo has given us some information on how they plan to move forward. And not too long ago, they said this: "We seek a virtuous cycle with our integrated hardware-software business and the provision of services and content based on Nintendo accounts, in which touchpoints are created with ever more consumers and strengthened to establish long-term, mutually positive relationships." You might take a look at that and think, okay, that's a nothing burger. But I beg to differ, and let me explain why. They are talking about how they have established Nintendo accounts. This is the first time ever for a generation where Nintendo has a subscription service that we pay for. And now that they have a subscription service that we pay for, they have reason to keep those subscriptions. They're not just going to abandon them. You know how like we had Virtual Console on the Nintendo Wii, and then when we moved on to the Wii U, we had to start all over again? That's not going to be the case this time around. That's what this information implies. They refer to different touch points that can bring back consumers and build that relationship. So think about these different touch points. What would be a touch point? So for example, cloud saves. All of your saves on your current Switch transferring over to the next system. That would count. That would also suggest some level of backwards compatibility, but we'll get to that in a bit. Nintendo Switch Online. Every single game that they've added to Nintendo Switch Online, you will still have access to on the next system. The implication here is that a lot of these features you will still retain when moving on to the next system, almost like just getting another Switch. And actually, we have additional evidence suggesting that, at least when it comes to Nintendo's cloud gaming service, Nintendo Switch Online, where we play N64, Sega Genesis, Game Boy, things like that, will be transferred over. So thanks to the investigation from the CMA regarding the Activision Blizzard Xbox deal, we've gotten some information suggesting that yes, Nintendo Switch Online will be on the next system. Nintendo Switch Online has been excluded from our shares as Nintendo's cloud gaming service is very limited. Nintendo's cloud gaming service is only available on the Nintendo Switch device and redacted. They had to redact, in other words, take out, strike it from the record so people wouldn't see it publicly, the name of Nintendo's next system. But here it's saying that that cloud gaming service that's on Nintendo Switch, Game Boy Color, N64, all of that, will also be on their next system that they had to redact. We didn't see the name of it, but it exists. So that's further evidence supporting this idea that at least NSO will be transferred over. Considering that they just gave us a major update with the Game Boy and Game Boy Advance, it seems like this service is going to be sticking around for a long time. But now let's move on to the backwards compatibility, because a lot of people have been concerned about us not being able to play things like Tears of the Kingdom and Mario Kart 8 on the next system. So recently, Shigeru Miyamoto, the father of Mario and Zelda and a few other Nintendo IP, was questioned on backwards compatibility moving forward. And this is what Miyamoto said: "The development environment has increasingly become more standardized, and we now have an environment that allows players to enjoy older video games on newer consoles more easily than ever before." Now, to be fair, I think there is a chance he's referring to mostly just NSO here, but he was questioned on backwards compatibility. So he brought up Virtual Console earlier on, citing that that's a way to play older games on newer systems, but he also brings this up to suggest that it's a little bit easier to do now than it used to be in the past. And Nintendo has still done backwards compatibility. I would say they usually do backwards compatibility when you look at some of their more recent offerings. Every Nintendo handheld system has gone one generation back in terms of backwards compatibility, excluding the Switch. And even the Wii and the Wii U also were backwards compatible. Now you might say, sure, but that was old Nintendo. New Nintendo is with the Switch, and it's not backwards compatible with prior systems. Yes, but I actually think this serves my point here, because the Switch was a clean break. It was the beginning of a new time for Nintendo. They established their Nintendo accounts, they combined their gaming divisions, it's all on one platform now. Everything is integrated, everything is all in one basket. And sales on this system have been stronger than ever before. More games have been bought for this system than ever before. So what this says is that there's actually more reason to have backwards compatibility this time than ever before. There's more value there, especially considering that we already have some evidence supporting the idea that this next system is going to be in the family of Switch systems, that they're going to want to retain that image and brand of the Switch. So there's even more reason to be backwards compatible. Now, yes, there are challenges. Maybe there'll be some limitations to how backwards compatible they will be. Maybe it'll only be select games. But if I had to guess, I'm going to guess that Nintendo will come up with a way to get this done. Either A, just shove in the Tegra X1 into the Switch 2, just like how they handled it with their previous systems in order to have backwards compatibility, or because they work so closely with NVIDIA, NVIDIA develops some sort of option in mind with this Switch 2 chipset or what have you that facilitates backwards compatibility with the Tegra X1 Switch. So basically, while it may be challenging, I'm of the frame of mind where there's a will, there's a way, and there should be more will than ever before here, so I absolutely believe there will be backwards compatibility. But there's actually something else that supports this idea. Going back to the leak, again, if you want more information on that, there will be a link in the description below if you want to get more information on it. But part of the leak includes a graphics enhancement patch for Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. The implication of that is that, one, some big Switch games are going to have graphics enhancement patches, which is wonderful. So that's another feature there. A lot of Switch games will have better visuals and run better on Switch too. But also, backwards compatibility. If they're going to be able to release patches that improve the graphics, that implies that yes, these games are going to be playable on the next system. Now, you could argue that this patch means that the game will need to be patched in order to be playable in that system, suggesting that not every single game will be playable unless they get a patch. But this is just referring to a graphics enhancement patch. There's no mention of a patch to run on the system. So I'm going to stick with the assumption that just like how Nintendo's handled it always in the past when they've had a successful system and they followed it up, it's going to be backwards compatible. And considering that we're going to be seeing the return of Nintendo accounts, NSO will be transferring over, likely all of our eShop downloads will transfer over, big Switch games will get patches to run and look better, and this is effectively going to be a more powerful Switch that will transfer everything over. But there's a little bit more I want to speak on here. We've seen patents showing upscaling technology like DLSS or AI enhanced upscaling, so yes, I think a lot of Switch games or Switch 2 games are going to look pretty good. It's going to help Switch 2 games look and run really well. But we've also gotten patents in the past about controllers. Now, this could have been for the Switch, but I do think they are headed in this direction. So we got this patent a couple years back showing hinged Joy-Cons, and we never saw this materialize on Switch. But I wouldn't be surprised if something like this appears for Switch 2. Now, I'm not saying specifically this exact design is going to be on there for Switch 2, but I think the idea behind the hinge is to offer more ergonomic Joy-Cons. Me personally, whenever I play in handheld for somewhat of an extended time, it actually kind of numbs my hands a little bit because it just doesn't fit my hands right. And that might be because my hands are perhaps a little bit above average in size, so it doesn't work for everyone, and the idea behind this hinge is that you can actually change the Joy-Cons a little bit to fit your particular hand size or form. And I think this would be great. But even if it is not specifically a hinge, I think the main point here is reconsidering the ergonomics of the Joy-Cons. These hinges show that Nintendo is aware that the Joy-Cons on the actual tablet itself are not the most ergonomic, most comfortable option out there. There's a reason there's a lot of different peripherals out there from third-party companies of different grips you can attach to your Nintendo Switch, because it's just not that comfortable to hold on its own. So Nintendo is working on this, and I expect there to be some changes. In the note of Joy-Con changes, I also expect that likely they will fix the Joy-Con drift issue. Having a new system is the perfect opportunity to change the Joy-Cons finally without causing as big of a stir. People are still going to talk about it for sure, but they will finally, fully, truly get this done. And there have been different advancements in technologies that have come out that will give them options to do this. One option could be simply magnetic analog sticks. So instead of using mechanical parts that can degrade over time, through electromagnetism, there will be less contact and thus less parts degrading over time, causing drift. And thus less lawsuits for Nintendo and better publicity, ultimately leading to less money lost, more money gained, something Nintendo probably wants to do. So to summarize here, based off the information we have, I'm surmising that the next system will be effectively a Nintendo Switch 2. It will be a hybrid device that can be in portable handheld mode, but also docked. It will fit the Switch family of systems. It will be more powerful significantly. It will have upscaling, so we'll likely see potentially 4K visuals, though through AI upscaling, so not true 4K, but still things will look really good. Nintendo Switch Online accounts will transfer over. This will likely mean that a lot of your cloud saves will transfer over, and all the Nintendo Switch Online virtual console or legacy games like Game Boy Advance, N64, NES, SNES, Sega Genesis, those will all transfer over. And we are seeing signs of backwards compatibility, so I think there will probably be full backwards compatibility, but there will be some select Nintendo Switch games that will receive a graphics enhancement patch that will make them look and run better on the new system. We've seen patents showing that Nintendo has an interest in improving the ergonomics of the Joy-Cons, so I expect the next system will feel a lot more comfortable to hold. And this one doesn't have as much evidence, but I feel it's a relatively safe bet to say that the next analog sticks for whatever is their Joy-Con solution will lack drift, which I think is a great thing. And those are my thoughts on possible features for Nintendo Switch 2 that we can surmise so far. But what do you guys think? Do you agree? Do you have other ideas? Let me know in the comments below. Anyways, everyone, this is Andre's Restart. Thank you so much for listening and watching, and I'll see you all really soon. Take care. Bye.